Hello students, this is Mr. Hart, and in this video I want to show you a full program made in Scratch, starting from scratch, no pun intended. Okay, we're going to go through all the pieces of making a full little car driving program. Okay, and I may be going a little fast because I know you can stop and slow down the video if you need to. And again, you don't need to make this exact program. I just want to show you the process and thoughts that go into making a full game. Okay, so that hopefully this will be helpful for you making your game. Okay, and so follow along. You can stop and pause and make notes as needed, but I just want you to focus more on this process of what we're going to do to make this game. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to hide myself, and the first thing I always focus on is the pieces. Okay, so I want to make a car driving game. So first of all, I probably should find a car. Okay, so we're going to look for some kind of car. We have this little convertible, so why not? Let's add that. Let's make that our car. Okay, and we kind of want this to be a side-scrolling game where the car kind of stays on the left and it's driving down the road. So let's make it a little bit smaller. Okay, and let's have something good to pick up. So maybe we could do bananas. I think there was like a donut. Yeah, let's do donuts. Donuts are fun to pick up off the road. That sounds safe and sanitary. So we want to get donuts, and we don't want to hit rocks. Okay, so let's find some kind of rock to hit into. There we go. We got our rock. And again, I'm going to scale these all to about half size. Okay, so don't worry so much about where they land right now, but let's focus on those items. So those will be our 3 items. Okay, now let's focus on the backdrop. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and draw it myself this time. I'm going to do shapes. So let's say the grass is like a greenish color. Do that as my top boundary and my bottom boundary. And then we'll make the road kind of a grayish color. So I'm gonna go down to like a grayish, there we go, yeah, a grayish color like that. Okay. Oh, but I wasn't careful. I was changing the one I was working on. So let's go back. Let's draw a new one. So we'll make that one that kind of grayish color like that. Okay, so it's nothing fancy, but it works. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, I'm just going to keep these to the side for now because I don't want to worry about them yet. First thing I want to do is just focus on the car's movement. Okay, so I'm going to go to the car, and we want to do the up and down. Okay, we're going to have things coming at it, but the car is always going to stay on the left. So we just need to do up and down. Okay, so when the game starts, let's go ahead and have it start in the center. So I'm going to say to go to that position to start. Okay, and then we want to do a forever if loop. So forever if the user is, let's do or sorry, this is the one about key. If they're pressing the up arrow, then I want to change my Y position by, let's say 5. And if they press the down arrow, I want to change my position by -5. Okay. So this should control our basic movement. So let's give it a shot. So now the car moves up, the car moves down, perfect. Okay. But the problem is we don't want to be able to drive on the grass. That would be bad. It's usually not allowed in most places. Okay. So let's add some boundaries. Okay. So I'm going to actually play a little trick. I'm going to go back to the backdrop, and we'll make this top the green color it was, But let's actually get rid of, or not get rid of this, let's change the color. I'm going to just slightly modify this color just enough to have these two colors be different, okay? That way I know if I'm hitting the top boundary or the bottom boundary, okay? Sounds like a small difference, but this will be really helpful, okay? So what I'm going to do is, if my car is touching this green color on top, select that color, then I want to go back down, right? Because I went too far up. So I'm going to change my Y by -10, okay? And if my car is touching this bottom color, which looks really similar but is not the same, then I want to go up because I went too far down. All right, let's give that a shot. So we click this. Good, I can't go too far up or too far down. I have to stay on the road. Perfect. Okay, so we got our first piece figured out, our car's movement, okay? Now we want to add some realism as if we're driving down the road, okay? So what I'm going to do is actually make a little sprite that I'm going to paint myself. And it's going to be nothing fancy. I'm just going to make it white. And draw that. Okay, sorry, that was supposed to be white. There we go. By the way, if you're trying to find grayscale, it's always when saturation is 0, just so you know. Okay, so we have our grayscale. We want it white. Perfect. Okay, it's way too big, but we'll worry about that in a second. Okay, I'll change that right now. Let's go like 10%. Yeah, there we go. We want it really small. Okay. And these are going to be our road lines. Okay. So to get that motion happening of it moving to the left, okay, or the car driving to the right, we're going to move the road lines to the left. Okay, so with my road line selected, I'm just going to tell it to, well, first of all, when the flag starts, okay, I want it to move to where it's at. Actually, let's start even further to the right. I want it to start right there. And then I want to glide all the way over here. So glide to that. I'm actually going to make sure the Y positions line up so it goes in a straight line. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, that's a little fast. We'll make it glide for 3 seconds. Maybe a little slow. Let's try 2 seconds. There we go. And I'm going to actually make it go to -250. So it still goes further. Okay. Other things noticing. Notice that it goes in front of the car. We actually want the car to be on top. Okay. So a little trick that hasn't really been needed till now is you can actually set the layer of an object. So I'm going to tell the car to go to the front layer. That just means it will always be on top. So if we do this now, it'll be in front of the white object. Okay? So that's good. Okay, in fact, I'm just going to put that inside the forever loop so that it always stays on top no matter what. Okay, it's looking good. Make sure to save. But that's only one block, right? We want to do this forever, right? We want a lot of these white road markings going by, okay? So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide this one as soon as it's done, right? But rather than just creating like a million sprites down here in this box, which would take forever, we can use another little trick. Okay, that will be helpful. Oh, let's make sure to show it too. Okay, so we want to show it when it starts, but we also want to hide it. Okay, so what we're going to do is after it's been clicked, to make multiple of these, we're going to use what's called a clone. Okay, so if you go to Control, I believe it is, you can create a clone of yourself. Okay, so what I'm going to do is tell it to wait maybe a half a second and then create a clone of itself. Okay, well, what does that do? Well, that's going to make another copy of this sprite. Okay, so now we need to say, if I ever start as a clone, if I've ever made a copy of myself, then I actually want to do this. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate that code. Oh, I need the show button as well. Okay, now let's watch what happens. So now we have a second copy of that line coming across. Okay, so if you have something that you're going to create like an infinite amount of, something that you're just going to make lots and lots of copies of, clone is a really good way to go. Okay, but notice it only does 2. What if I want to do a lot of these? Okay, well, you can actually make the clone make clones. So we're going to go to, when I start as a clone, I'm actually going to copy this. So now the original makes a clone, but the clone also makes a clone, and that clone makes a clone, and that clone makes a clone, and now we have the illusion as if we're driving down the road. Okay, so there we go. So we got our basic driving mechanics. Okay, so it looks like our car is driving and it's going down the road. Okay, the only problem is these things aren't moving yet, so we should probably fix those. All right, so here's another little trick you can do. Because I know I'm going to have lots of rocks and donuts, okay, I'm actually not going to worry about the originals. Okay, I'm going to just go ahead and hide them, okay, and not worry about the originals. Let's just worry about clones of the originals. Okay, let's start with the donut. So we want to, first of all, when the flag is clicked, let's wait a couple seconds, maybe 1 second, and then we'll create a clone. Okay, and then if a clone is made, what do we want to do? So every time a donut clone is made, we want it to start on this right side. Okay, but it's a pretty boring game if you always have the donut appear on the same spot, right? So we're going to have it go to, let's say 250x. 250 is the furthest to the right, but we want a random number for y. So let's go to our operators, and we'll pick a random number. Let's say, let's see if we can figure out. If we go down to the bottom, we're looking at what? Negative about 100 and positive about 130. Okay, so we want our donut to appear somewhere between negative 100y and positive 130y. Okay, so let's try that. Oh, but it's still hidden, so we need to make sure to show that and see if it works. Okay, so there's our donut. Let's see if it pops up into a new place. Perfect. Okay, so the donut is appearing, but it's not moving yet. So now we need it to glide. Okay, so we're going to have it glide from whatever, take about 2 seconds. We're going to glide from that to about negative 250 to the left side. Okay. And then we want to hide it, right? But here's the problem. Okay. If I pick a random spot again, it'll pick a new random y, right? Let me show you that. So if I pick negative 100 to positive 130, these two random numbers aren't guaranteed to be the same. Okay. So notice, let's try that again. So notice the donut's kind of going up in that case, or it's gliding to kind of to an upward direction. So we don't want that. So we need a variable. Okay. So we need a hidden number. So let's make a variable just for this sprite called y value. Okay. So we're going to set y value to, sorry, I guess we don't need it. We're going to set y value to a random number, and then we'll set this glide to that y value. Okay, so now it should always go across nice and cleanly. Okay. All right, and then we want to see something. Okay. So if the car hits it, right, then we want to give points or something, right? So let's go to when I start as a clone. Okay, that was in control. When I start as a clone, we want to do a forever check, right? Again, so we'll do, or we can do wait until. Okay, actually in this case, I guess wait until works, right? So when I start, I'm going to wait until I'm touching the car. So if I'm touching the car, or sorry, not touching color, touching the convertible, okay, then I want to disappear, right? So maybe I want to hide, and I want to add points, okay? So let's make a new variable. This one, in this case, is for all sprites. So we call this is a global variable because it's our total score. So all the different objects can affect this. So actually just call it score. So that's why we want to make it for all sprites. Okay, and we definitely want to make sure that one is seen. Okay. So if you touch the convertible, meaning that you run into the donut, I want to add 10 points. Okay, so I'm going to change my score by 10 points. Okay, let's see if it works. So here comes our donut. I touch it. I got 10 points. Okay, but I really would like for it to disappear, right? So if I hit into it, oh, also notice that when we start, our score keeps being the same. So two things. Let's set our score to 0 to start. Okay, so it goes back to 0. And then we want to hide our donut. But because it's a clone, the better way, rather than just hiding, is to actually delete the clone. Okay? You don't want it anymore. Okay, so now when I hit into the donut, it disappears. It's not just hidden, it is just completely off the screen, completely destroyed. It's not taking up any memory or anything like that. If you just hide it, then weird errors can occur, so it's best if it's a clone to actually delete it. Okay? All right, last thing is we want our clones to make new clones, right? So let's wait. Let's do 1 second this time, and then create a clone. Okay? So there we go. I can gather donuts, and we have our basic car game. Okay? For sake of time, I'm not going to do the rock, but you would do the same thing, except you might minus points, okay, for hitting into the rock, but it would look very similar to the donut. Okay? We have our working card game. So, again, that might have been fast. There's a couple of new concepts with making clones and setting variables for random positions. Okay? But hopefully you get a feel for the process you take when you make a game. Okay? Get your items first, get your objects first, make sure they look right, design your background and your setup how you want to. Okay? I usually work with controls first, so we controlled the car, worked on making sure it had the boundary set. Okay? Then we had this case of making the nice lines going across. We talked about how to make clones and how to have clones make clones. And then we also talked about scoring and picking random positions. Okay? So hopefully those specific skills are helpful to you, but at the very least, hopefully that process is helpful. Okay? Make your objects, make your background, do the controls, and then worry about the actual scoring and mechanics. Okay? And as always, never forget to save. Okay, thank you guys. We'll do one more platformer game next time, and if you feel comfortable with that, then you are a Scratch master. Okay? So, looking forward to it. See you in the next video.